A congressional hearing was supposed to be routine. Instead, it turned into a moment where the FBI director himself struggled to explain a glaring omission. Representative Meng put Kash Patel on the spot over a background check that left out one very inconvenient detail about Ed Martin's past associations. What Patel said next didn't calm the room. It raised even more questions. Stick around, because this exchange reveals a lot more about accountability at the FBI than a routine hearing ever should.
They are formal federal budgetary accounting documents that are legally binding on federal agency, and OMB uses them to tell agencies how and when they can spend legally appropriated funds. Beginning in March, this OMB stopped making these documents publicly accessible. You stated in your confirmation hearing before the Senate Judiciary Committee that you want to work to get public trust in the FBI back. It would seem to me that transparency and public reporting about where and how the Bureau is spending money would help in earning back public trust. As the leader of our nation's principal federal law enforcement agency, will you commit to making the FBI's account-specific apportionments publicly available?
Absolutely, so long as I have the appropriate request.
The law requires that all the information be posted publicly. Are you committing to do that?
If that's what the law requires, yes. I'm not the appropriations expert, but if that's what the law requires, that's what we'll do.
Do you have a timeline of when that would be possible, and why, since March, has it been taken down?
No, ma'am, but I will get you one.
Okay, so thank you for committing to publicly post what is required by law, the apportionment for the FBI. I wanted to ask about one of the U.S. Attorney nominee Ed Martin. As you know, the FBI conducts background checks on nominees for senior positions in the federal government. Ed Martin has been nominated by the president to serve as U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, one of the top prosecutor positions in the country, and he currently holds that position in an interim role. If it has come to light that Mr. Martin has praised a Nazi sympathizer named Timothy Hale Cuccinelli, who was also pardoned by President Trump after being convicted as a January 6th rioter. Mr. Martin called Hale Cuccinelli, quote, an extraordinary man, an extraordinary leader.
A congressional hearing involving FBI Director Kash Patel turned attention to a basic but consequential question. What exactly was included in the FBI's background investigation of Ed Martin? Representative Meng pressed Patel about why information concerning Martin's association with Timothy Hale Cuccinelli was not reflected in the background investigation report provided to Congress.
Do you think that this is the kind of thing that the FBI should be careful to investigate as part of its background checks on nominees such as Mr. Martin?
Thank you, ma'am. I'm not familiar with Mr. Martin's specific BI investigation, but I can tell you how the BIs are done for everybody at the FBI. We have careers running the entire inspection division and HRD component. That has not changed since I've been in the seat, and every BI has been held to the same standard by them, and either they pass along the information from their investigations that they cultivate, or they don't. We do not tell them what to pass on and what not to investigate.
Do you know if this information and past association was part of the record?
I'm not familiar with his personal background.
Do you think that these types of controversial comments and interviews, association with Nazi sympathizers and anti-Semitic comments would be appropriate for inclusion in a given FBI background check?
Ma'am, since his nomination is pending, it's not for me to comment on it. I don't have the BI in front of me.
But in general, do you think that comments and associations like these should be part of an FBI background investigation report?
That's up to the field agents, ma'am. I can't rewrite that for them. They have a way of doing these investigations that I have not inhibited or changed or altered since I got in the seat.
Will you look into it and make sure that should be included, controversial and very troublesome anti-Semitic comments and associations like that should be part of a background check?
I will.
Thank you.
The issue matters because background checks for senior government positions are intended to give decision-makers relevant information before they evaluate a nominee. Patel said he was not familiar with Martin's specific investigation while explaining that career FBI personnel conduct these investigations and that agents determine what information is included in their reports.
As you know, earlier this year, the Justice Department demanded a list of all current and former FBI employees who at any time worked on January 6th investigations. According to the email from the then acting FBI director, the Justice Department will review those employees to, quote, determine whether any additional personnel actions are necessary. Director Patel, do you anticipate firing any additional FBI employees simply because they worked on January 6th related investigations?
Thank you for the question. That email or memo was sent out prior to my arrival at the FBI. We have not addressed that specific email since I've arrived because the matter's in litigation in federal court.
Do you anticipate firing any additional employees that may have worked in relation to the January 6th investigations?
The only way you get fired from the FBI while I'm the director is if you violate the ethical guidelines or break the law.
Okay. Thank you. I yield back.
Representative Grace Meng's exchange with FBI Director Kash Patel over the Ed Martin background check has reignited a familiar but urgent question in Washington. What exactly gets left out of a background investigation, and who decides that it doesn't matter? During a House Appropriations Committee hearing, Meng pressed Patel on why the FBI's background investigation report on Martin, sent to Congress as part of his nomination process to serve as U.S. Attorney for Washington, D.C., made no mention of his documented association with a former January 6th defendant known for espousing extremist views. That omission isn't a minor clerical gap. Background investigations exist precisely to surface associations and conduct that could affect a nominee's fitness for one of the most consequential prosecutorial roles in the country. And when something this specific and this well-documented doesn't make it into the final report, people are right to ask why. What makes Patel's response so notable is not just what he said, but how carefully he said it. He didn't claim the information was irrelevant. He didn't defend the omission on the merits. Instead, he repeatedly pushed the decision-making authority onto the field agents who conduct these investigations, telling Meng that the standards haven't changed since he took over and that he doesn't dictate what gets passed along or excluded. On paper, that's a defensible answer about process and institutional independence. In practice, it reads as a director declining to take ownership of a report his own bureau produced and delivered to Congress. That distinction matters enormously because the FBI director isn't just a figurehead signing off on paperwork. He's the person ultimately accountable for whether the institution is functioning as a credible, nonpartisan check on executive appointments. Zooming out, this moment fits into a broader pattern that's been building around Patel's tenure. His leadership has already drawn scrutiny over major staffing decisions within the Bureau's counterintelligence divisions, and members of Congress from the opposing party have increasingly used oversight hearings to test whether his answers hold up under specific, detail-driven questioning rather than broad talking points. Meng didn't ask Patel a vague question about vetting standards. She asked about one man, one omission, and one very identifiable extremist connection. When a director can't or won't explain why that specific fact didn't surface in an official report, it invites a legitimate question about whether background investigations under his watch are being shaped, softened, or simply left inconsistent depending on who the nominee happens to be. From an analytical standpoint, the more troubling implication isn't necessarily that Patel personally ordered anything hidden. It's that his answer leaves open the possibility that nobody is truly accountable for these gaps. If field agents make the calls independently and the director insists he doesn't influence that process, then Congress is left with no clear point of responsibility when something this significant slips through. That's not reassuring for an institution that is supposed to serve as an independent check on political appointments, especially for a role as powerful as a U.S. attorney overseeing federal prosecutions in the nation's capital. Oversight only works if someone in the chain is willing to say, plainly, this should have been included, and here's what we're doing to fix it. That statement never came. My honest take is that this exchange says less about Ed Martin himself and more about the erosion of institutional accountability at the FBI right now. Background checks are supposed to be the last line of defense against putting compromised or poorly vetted individuals into positions of real power, and when a sitting FBI director can sidestep direct questions about a glaring omission by pointing to how the process works, it signals that the process itself may no longer be functioning the way it's meant to. Congress asking these questions isn't political theater, it's the system doing exactly what it's designed to do. The real story here isn't just one missing detail in one report, it's whether the American public can still trust that the FBI's vetting process is rigorous, consistent, and free from convenient blind spots, and based on this hearing, that trust is very much in question.